A very good evening and welcome to the news at 6. I'm Tracy Shilshi and here are the headlines. The government rejects claims of former Finance Minister Yashwant Sinha about economy being in a downward spiral. Global financial services firm Morgan Stanley says India will become the third largest economy by 2027. BSF Jawan on vacation martyred in indiscriminate firing by terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir's Bandipora district. Security forces carry out massive search operations to nab the suspects. Afghan Chief Executive Dr. Abdullah arrives in New Delhi to expand bilateral ties, meets External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, will also hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And Finance Minister Arun Jaitley to meet industry representatives to discuss problems in implementing GST, issues like input tax credit and timely refund of duties paid by exporters to figure at the interaction. Top story in the debate is on after former Finance Minister Yashwant Sinha claimed that the country's economy is in a downward spiral. The government has rejected all the claims. Rail Minister Piyush Goyal has asserted that India has become the world's fastest growing economy for 3 consecutive years in a row. Meanwhile, global financial services firm Morgan Stanley has said that India will become the third largest economy by 2027.
Allaying fears of a slowdown, the government on Thursday defended its economic policies. Rail Minister Piyush Goyal said that for the first time in its history, India is driving world growth at all levels. The government, he said, contributed to this by initiating landmark reforms like the goods and services tax and structural reforms in all the sectors of the economy.
प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में ये पहले 3 वर्ष हैं जब एक साथ भारत विश्व की सबसे तेज गति से बढ़ती हुई अर्थव्यवस्था बन गई है। आज वास्तव में पूरे विश्व की अर्थव्यवस्था का जो ग्रोथ है वो भारत के ऊपर निर्भर करता है। भारत की तरफ सब देख रहे हैं कैसे भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी को ड्राइव कर रही है।
Backing the government's stance, global financial services firm Morgan Stanley also remained bullish about India. It said digitization will provide a boost of 50 to 75 basis points to GDP growth, while forecasting that India will grow to be a $6 trillion economy and achieve upper middle income status by 2026 or 27. It estimated that India's real and nominal GDP growth will grow annually by 7.1% and 11.2% in the coming decade. But former Finance Minister Yashwant Sinha stuck to his criticism of the government, which he said had disrupted business activity.
फैसले हो रहे हैं और कई महत्वपूर्ण फैसले हुए भी हैं, लेकिन देखिए जब हम सरकार की नीति निर्धारण करते हैं तो एक बात याद रखिए कि एक बड़ा पार्ट उसका होता है लोगों के कल्याण की योजनाएं और एक बड़ा पार्ट होता है अर्थव्यवस्था को गति देने के लिए कदम। हमको लगता है कि सरकार में कुछ इस तरह का कंफ्यूजन हो गया है कि हम जो कल्याण की योजनाएं हैं हम समझते हैं कि अकेले उसी से अर्थव्यवस्था गति मिल जाएगी, ऐसा नहीं होगा।
Meanwhile, Yashwant Sinha's son and Union Minister of State for Civil Aviation, Jayant Sinha, backed the Modi government, stating that structural reforms unveiled since 2014 constitute the third generation of reforms. He said that GST, demonetization and digital payments are game-changing efforts to formalize India's economy. Recognizing the need for an economic revival, Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently reconstituted the Economic Advisory Council under the chairmanship of Niti Aayog member Bibek Debroy. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley will meet industry representatives to discuss problems on implementing GST. Industry representatives are likely to raise issues like input tax credit as well as a timely refund of duties paid by exports. Representatives of FICCI, CII, Federation of Indian Export Organizations and Federation of Indian Micro and Small and Medium Enterprise are likely to attend the meeting. The Federation of Indian Export Organizations has raised issues related to working capital being blocked and timely refund of GST. Meanwhile, the Commerce Ministry has assured it is working in coordination with departments to resolve exporters' problems, including those related to GST. Now to Jammu and Kashmir, slain BSF Jawan Ramiz Pare, who was killed in Bandipora, was laid to rest on Thursday as the BSF and police paid tributes. In a cowardly act, terrorists fatally shot the unarmed BSF constable on Wednesday night at his residence. Police suspect the involvement of Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorists and a massive manhunt is on.
In a shocking incident, an unarmed border security force Jawan was martyred on Wednesday evening in Bandipora district of Jammu and Kashmir. Terrorists barged into his house and shot indiscriminately, killing the Jawan and injuring 4 family members. BSF constable Ramiz Pare was home on leave when the incident took place. Police suspects involvement of Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorists in the killing. Family members reportedly said that Pare bravely resisted the terrorists till he breathed his last.
तकरीबन 5 मिनट हो गए, 4 निकाबपोश आदमी अंदर आ गए। वो कौन थे हमें नहीं पता है। वो कह रहे थे रमजान कहाँ है, हमें इसका आइडेंटिटी कार्ड दिखाओ, वेरिफिकेशन करनी है। हम उसको ये पूछ रहे थे क्यों, आप इसको क्यों ढूंढ रहे हो। वो इसी दरमियान हमने उसको उन 4 लोगों को बाहर निकाला और 2 ने हमको रोका, 2 अंदर गए। इनके दरमियान मुठभेड़ हुई और उन्होंने इसको शूट किया।
अभी तक जो हमारे पास जानकारी आ रही है उससे यही पता चल रहा है, जो घर वालों ने भी शिनाख्त करी है और जो लोग जो जख्मी हालत में हैं उनसे जो बातचीत हुई है, तो उस इलाके में अभी पिछले कुछ दिनों से जो मूवमेंट है, एक महमूद भाई नाम का एक लश्कर-ए-तोयबा का टेररिस्ट है, तो वो था और उसके साथ उसके और कुछ साथी थे। अब 3 से 4 की तादाद बताते हैं।
As the family mourned the death of their son, the wreath-laying ceremony was performed by BSF, CRPF and other security forces.
It is an act of cowardice, but then we will see that they are tracked down and taken to task. They want to silence the people who talk about terrorists.
Political parties termed the incident barbaric and inhuman and said the guilty should be punished.
The desperation of Pakistan and Pakistani-sponsored terrorism, because they are not able to cross the border, they are being killed on the border. Whosoever is there in the valley, they are being killed. More than a dozen of the other commanders have been killed. Now they are looking for soft targets.
Go for a governor rule, suspend the government and the assembly. There is no way out to save. Even the armed men like BSF, they are not secure. There is no security to a government.
This is what they are, cowards of the worst order. People who will go and murder and stab someone in the back. People who don't know the rules of war or decency or normalcy. And if this is the cowardice, so one can understand in direct proportion how nervous Pakistan is. This kind of actions do not augur well for them. They will understand that very soon.
The 31-year-old BSF constable was deployed with the 73rd Battalion and had served the force for 6 years. Meanwhile, security forces cordoned the area and a massive search operation is underway to nab the terrorists. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Home Minister Rajnath Singh began a 4-day visit to Uttarakhand today. He will tour areas bordering China, including Barahoti, which is manned by the Indo-Tibetan Border Police. Barahoti witnessed incursions by the Chinese army in the past, and in the latest incident, Chinese troops reportedly came close to a kilometer away. Rajnath Singh will also address IAS trainees at the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration in Mussoorie. The Union Minister may also visit the Rimkhim, Mana, Chamoli and Avli areas during his 4-day visit. It is the first time since the resolution of the Doklam standoff that a senior minister is visiting areas close to the India-China border. Meanwhile, on a visit to Gujarat, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu laid the foundation stone of a water pipeline project in Mehsana under the government's Sujalam Sufalam Yojana. Addressing the gathering, the Vice President praised the Narendra Modi government for undertaking the project to link rivers, saying that it was the only way to deal with the floods and drought situation in the nation. Naidu laid the foundation stone for 6 water pipelines as part of a 1,243 crore rupee project which aims to carry Narmada waters to 195 villages in Mehsana and neighbouring Gandhinagar district for irrigation purposes. Briefly addressing the gathering in Gujarati, Vice President Naidu also remembered the contribution made by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel in the unification of the country. The Vice President also said that agriculture and industry are the key to India's development.
हर खेती को पानी, हर एक हाथ को काम. Work to every hand, water to every land. Water to every land. हर खेती को पानी पहुंचाना, हर हाथ को काम देना. ये बहुत जरूरी है. कितना आबादी है इस देश में, 130 करोड़ आबादी, इतना बाहुल्य है. इसलिए जब तक आप पूरा सब इलाके में पानी नहीं पहुंचाएंगे, हर एक हाथ को काम देना संभव नहीं होगा.
And earlier on Wednesday, Vice President visited the Indian Institute of Science in Bengaluru, where he addressed and interacted with the students and research scholars. Speaking to the students, Venkaiah Naidu said that young scientists must be encouraged to come out with out-of-the-box solutions to help solve scientific problems and impart fresh impetus to development. He also emphasized on the need to expand knowledge networks and enter into partnerships that will accelerate the pace and quality of the outcomes.
The young and budding scientists must be encouraged to come out with out-of-box solutions or disruptive technologies that will help in finding solutions to scientific problems and leapfrogging development. We need to expand the knowledge networks and enter into partnerships that will accelerate the pace and quality of the outcomes. It is not possible for government to do this alone. We need creative partnership arrangements so that our efforts are useful for the larger humanity. The academic circles, industrial houses, and the government must look at the social challenges and seek answers through collaborations and partnerships.
In more national news, fares for the Delhi Metro are all set to be hiked from the 3rd of October. This will be the second phase of revision as part of the recommendations given by the 4th Fare Fixation Committee. The Delhi Metro Rail Corporation hiked the fares on 10th of May. The new revision will now increase maximum fare from 50 to 60 rupees. The revised fare structure will be applicable from October. The new tariff will be 10 rupees for 2 kilometers, 20 between 2 and 5 kilometers, 30 rupees from 5 to 12 kilometers, 40 rupees for travel between 12 and 21 kilometers, 50 rupees for journey from 21 to 32 kilometers, and 60 rupees for travel beyond 32 kilometers. Calling the hike an anti-people measure, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal asked the Delhi Transport Minister to find a solution within a week. The DMRC chief, however, ruled out a rollback of the decision.
फेयर के बारे में बात हुई है, फेयर हाइक के बारे में बात हुई है, तो मैंने मंत्री जी को सारा एक्सप्लेन कर दिया है कि फेयर कैसे बढ़ा है, फेयर फिक्सेशन कमेटी की रिकमेंडेशंस हैं, उनको सारा बता दिया है. सर, फेयर बढ़ेंगे अभी तक तो बढ़े हुए हैं.
And for more updates from across the country, let's get you nationwide. Independent Jammu and Kashmir MLA Sheikh Abdul Rashid has been summoned by the NIA for questioning in a case related to funding of terror activities in the valley. Popularly known as Rashid Engineer, the MLA has been called for questioning on the 3rd of October and is the first mainstream politician to be summoned by the NIA in the case. Rashid, who is an independent MLA from Lagat, has denied involvement in the case and appealed to the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly Speaker to initiate an inquiry. Father Tom Urunalil, the Kerala priest who was released recently from captivity in Yemen, met Prime Minister Narendra Modi and External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj in New Delhi. He thanked them for their support and efforts in getting him released. He was abducted on the 4th of March 2016, reportedly in an incident of terrorist attack in Aden by an unidentified group and taken to an unknown location. Father Tom was kept in captivity for more than 18 months by the Islamic State terror group. The Indian Air Force training aircraft crashed in Hyderabad on Thursday. The Kiran aircraft was on a routine training mission. It took off from the Hakimpet Air Force Station in Hyderabad and crashed near Ankireddipalli. No casualties or injuries were reported in the crash. The trainee pilot also ejected safely. A court of inquiry will ascertain the cause of the crash. Former editor-in-chief of Tehelka magazine Tarun Tejpal has been charged with raping a junior colleague at the magazine 4 years ago. A Goa court on Thursday rejected Tejpal's petition to defer framing of charges by a month. He was also denied exemption from appearing in person for court proceedings. Tejpal had pleaded not guilty, terming the charges against him as false and motivated by political vendetta. The trial in the case is set to begin on the 21st of November. A quick break here. Up next, international and sports news.
Our particular interests are in vaccines, diagnostics, drugs and policies. We are also looking at health policy. So how can you change policies in the country to be able to deliver better care to people? Currently, rotavirus kills about 250,000 children around the world every year. We will also get the vaccine shortly. Then that will mean that at least half the country is getting a vaccine that was developed in India, that is being made in India for the Indian program.
Watch Eureka with Dr. Gagandeep Kang, Executive Director at Translational Health Science and Technology Institute, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Afghanistan's chief executive, Dr. Abdullah, met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi on Thursday. Both leaders reviewed the entire gamut of bilateral relationship between the two countries. They also discussed issues of common interest. The Afghan CEO also called on External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj earlier. The two discussed ways to further strengthen the partnership in combating challenges emanating from Pakistan. India reiterated its commitment to help Afghanistan in its developmental projects. Meanwhile, India has reacted strongly to Pakistan's big admission on terrorism, with Pakistan Foreign Minister Khwaja Asif accepting that Haqqanis and 2611 mastermind Hafiz Saeed and the terror group Lashkar-e-Toiba are liabilities for their country. Union Minister for Minority Affairs Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi hit back at Pakistan, saying that until now they never accepted that Hafiz Saeed was a terrorist who has now become a headache for Pakistan itself. Congress leader Sandeep Dikshit too slammed Pakistan for making these comments. Last evening, speaking at the Society Forum in New York, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Khwaja Asif had said that Pakistan has to continue its efforts in dismantling terrorism, but added that it does not have the required assets to do the job. However, he also said that the US, which is putting pressure on Pakistan to tackle terrorist groups operating from its soil, used to treat them as darlings just 20 to 30 years back. Talking about India-Pakistan relations, Khwaja Asif said that a new initiative was needed to bring India and Pakistan to the negotiating table. Meanwhile, Pakistan has also extended Hafiz Saeed's house arrest by a month.
आज जो है वो जो बात हम शुरू से कहते रहे हैं कि चाहे हाफिज़ सईद रहा हो, चाहे और आतंकवादी संगठन हो जो कि पाकिस्तान में अपने सुरक्षित ठिकाने को बना के रखा हुआ था, तो उस वक्त पाकिस्तान उसका कहता था नहीं साहब हमारे यहाँ कोई आतंकवादी नहीं है, हाफिज़ सईद आतंकवादी नहीं हो तो महापुरुष है उसके लिए। तो अब उन्हीं का महापुरुष उनके लिए सरदर्द बन गया है, तो वो समस्या उनकी है। समस्या सबसे बड़ी ये है कि उन्हें आतंकवाद से अपना पल्ला झाड़ना पड़ेगा।
ऐसी बातें वो लोग पहले भी 2-3 बार कर चुके हैं। जब उन पर अंतर्राष्ट्रीय प्रहार होता है तो यकायक कुछ इन चीज़ों को कहने लगते हैं, क्योंकि अगर आपको लगता है कि इस बातों से आपको दिक्कत हो रही है तो आपको पता है वो कहाँ बैठे हैं। 2 मिनट लगता है, गिरफ्तार करिए, हिंदुस्तान को दे दीजिए, ख़त्म कहानी। लश्कर-ए-तौयबा का 2 मिनट में आपको मालूम है, आपकी ISI में लोग हैं जो उन्हें पैसा देते हैं, प्रशिक्षण देते हैं, उनके कैंपों के लिए सामान देते हैं, आपको सारा पता है।
In more news, South Korean President Moon Jae-in has urged North Korea to give up its nuclear programs. Moon was speaking at South Korea's 69th Armed Forces Day celebration. He added that South Korea's cooperation with the international community to curb the North's nuclear ambitions is its topmost priority.
우리의 당명 목표도 분명합니다. 북한의 도발을 막고 반드시 핵을 포기하도록 해야 합니다. 이를 위해 정부는 최선을 다하고 있습니다. 한미동맹에는 한치의 흔들림도 없으며 국제사회와의 공조도 역대 가장 긴밀한 수준으로 이루어지고 있습니다.
Meanwhile, China has agreed to comprehensively implement United Nations sanctions on North Korea. The Commerce Ministry confirmed that the UN sanctions gave a buffer period for implementation of the ban on coal and seafood imports from North Korea. Tensions are high on the Korean peninsula since Pyongyang's 6th and largest nuclear test on the 3rd of September, which was followed by the country's latest missile launch that sent a projectile flying over Japan to land into the Pacific.
安理会决议对执行矿产品及海产品禁运的相关措施规定了缓冲期。中方上述的做法符合决议的规定，也符合中国对外贸易法律法规的要求。中方将根据国内法律和应承担的国际义务，开展与朝鲜的贸易往来。谢谢。
US President Donald Trump has proposed the most sweeping overhaul of the US tax code in decades. A framework released by Republicans calls for lowering the tax rate for corporations from 35% to 20%, among other changes. The president said the revamp will make the US more competitive and help middle-class families, but Democrats criticized the plan as a giveaway for the rich.
But our country and our economy cannot take off like they should unless we dramatically reform America's outdated, complex, and extremely burdensome tax code. It's a relic. Got to change it.
Donald Trump unveiling his plan for shaking up America's tax system, saying that deep cuts would make the US more competitive and help ease the burden on middle-class families. The plan is the first major US tax reform since 1986. Among other things, it calls for reducing the US corporate tax rate from 35% to 20%.
Our framework includes our explicit commitment that tax reform will protect low-income and middle-income households, not the wealthy and well-connected. They can call me all they want. It's not going to help. I'm doing the right thing, and it's not good for me, believe me.
US President also said that reforms will lead to a simplification of the tax code, framing the effort in his speech as a historic opportunity. He said that the idea is also a bid to spur economic growth and encourage US companies to locate and invest in the United States.
Instead of a source of pride, our tax code has become a constant source of frustration. It's too big. It's too complicated. It's too expensive. Today, we are taking the next step to liberate Americans from our broken tax code. This unified framework delivers a new tax code that is simple, that is fair, that is pro-growth and pro-family.
Trump's push on tax reform comes on the heels of his latest in a string of stinging defeats on health care reform, with Senate Republicans repeatedly failing to string together 50 votes to replace Obamacare. Trump's tax plan also faces an uphill battle in the Congress, with his own Republican Party divided and the Democrats hostile, who criticize the plan as a giveaway for the wealthy. The White House is, however, aiming to push the tax reform through Congress by the end of the year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And here are more international news updates in Global Buzz. Malaysia has banned its citizens from travelling to North Korea until further notice by the administration. The ban has been imposed as North Korea faces increased diplomatic pressure of its nuclear weapons program. Malaysia is one of North Korea's remaining diplomatic partners in the world. Bilateral tensions briefly escalated and travel bans were imposed in February this year as well, but were lifted soon as both countries agreed on a deal. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has hit back at US President Donald Trump for accusing the social networking website of being anti-Trump. Responding to the president's tweet, Zuckerberg said that Facebook is a platform for all ideas. Trump's criticism came after Facebook agreed to cooperate with the Congress on its investigation of Russian meddling in the 2016 US presidential election. Zuckerberg has defended the company's decision to cooperate with the investigators. The administration of the Pacific island nation of Vanuatu ordered full evacuation of its northern island of Ambae after the Manarowui volcano threatened to erupt. The volcano, which stirred earlier this month, intensified over the weekend, emitting ash and volcanic gas, triggering concerns of an imminent eruption. Vanuatu has a population of over 2 lakh people in a cluster of more than 80 islands. The last time the volcano erupted was in 2005. 14 people were shot dead at a drug rehabilitation center in northern Mexico as part of a territory fight between 2 criminal gangs. The shooting took place in the Rosario neighborhood of the city of Chihuahua. 8 people were also injured in the attack. Alright, sports now, and in the penultimate match of the ODI series between India and Australia at Bengaluru, Aussie captain Steve Smith elected to bat first after winning the toss. Aaron Finch's 94 and David Warner's 124-run knock took Australia to 334 for 5. This was Warner's 100th ODI for Australia, and he became only the 8th batsman to score a century in their 100th ODI. The Australian openers took on the Indian bowlers from the very first ball. Warner and Finch gave Australia a solid start. For India, Umesh Yadav was the pick of the bowlers as he finished with figures of 4 for 71. After the openers were dismissed, the middle order batsmen provided crucial runs which helped the visitors cross the 300-run mark. We'll continue giving you updates on that match. Meanwhile, the International Cricket Council is going to impose new rules from today. In the new rules, the significant changes include a restriction on the dimensions of the bat and changes to the decision review system. From now onwards, the players can be sent off for misconduct during matches. Also, in case of boundary catches, airborne fielders making their first contact with the ball will need to be from within the boundary, otherwise a boundary will be scored. Besides these, a batsman can now be caught out, stumped or run out even if the ball bounces off the helmet worn by a fielder or a wicketkeeper. All these rules will come into effect from the 2 upcoming Test series when South Africa hosts Bangladesh and Pakistan takes on Sri Lanka in the United Arab Emirates. And here are more updates from the world of sports in Sportsbeat. On the concluding day of the Asian Indoor and Martial Arts Games, India won 4 medals, including a gold. Tennis player Sumit Nagal won a gold in tennis men's category. He defeated Vijay Sundar Prashant 6-1, 6-1 in the All-Indian final. In chess, India collected 2 bronze in the men's blitz team and the men's blitz team under 23. With 9 gold, 12 silver and 19 bronze, India finished the games at 11th. Host Turkmenistan topped the medals tally, followed by China and Iran. India were represented by more than 200 athletes in 15 disciplines. In squash, India's world number 21 Deepika Pallikal beat US's Olivia Blatchford to enter the women's semi-finals of the San Francisco Open squash tournament. She will now play Malaysia's 8-time world champion and second-seeded Nicole David in the semi-final. Dani Alves, Edinson Cavani and Neymar netted as Paris Saint-Germain picked up a 3-0 victory over Bayern Munich at Parc des Princes to make it 2 wins from 2 games in Group B. Mbappe, with his pace and skill, set up Cavani's magnificent strike that made it 2-0 and created Neymar's goal in the second half to make it 3. While PSG move forward, Bayern are headed in the opposite direction after suffering its worst group stage defeat in the Champions League in 16 years. That's it on the news at 6. Thanks for joining us.